or they'll speak in the order in which they're seated. The first is Jodhna Singh Khalsa, over on the other end now, who is formerly a professor of accounting, has a number of degrees in that field. He's now a business owner, Khalsa McBrearty Accountancy. He is a Sikh, and he's a member of the International Khalsa Council. Did I get that correct? All right. And then David Lincoln has not yet appeared, and we've not reached him the last 2 days, so we're not sure of his presence or not. But then to my right is Randy Nye, who's an attorney and a general counsel for the Sant Corporation. And then in the middle, Mary Jo West, who is a broadcast journalism pioneer, as a woman anchor, both in Phoenix pardon me, and in New York for CBS. She's won many awards, and she presently works for the St. Vincent de Paul here in Phoenix, which is the largest St. Vincent de Paul organization in the world, I will have you know. So we are delighted that the three of you are here. They will each do 10 to 12 minutes of a presentation, and then we will have conversation together. All right. And our first person is Randy Nye. Welcome, Randy.
Thank you. Good morning. Still morning, I think. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. My name is Randy Nye. I'm General Counsel for Sant Construction Company, headquartered in Tempe, Arizona. And I'm happy to be here. I appreciate the invitation. I wanted to start a little, maybe by just giving a brief history of Sant Construction, the company I work for. It actually doesn't have a brief history. It's got a long history, I'm happy to say, and we hope to keep that track record going. It was started in 1890 by a man by the name of Moritz Martinsen Sant, M.M. Sant, a Norwegian ship carpenter who settled in Las Vegas, New Mexico. Wanted to get the New Mexico out there quickly. I never knew there was a Las Vegas New Mexico till I joined Sant. In any event, the first large project that Sant built was the Agua Pura Dam in 1910, just outside Las Vegas, New Mexico. Still in service, by the way. The original contract amount was $22,000, and we have the original contract in our legacy room in our Tempe headquarters. $22,000, you can't build a backyard playground for that. So, but in any event, in 1929, the company ventured out of New Mexico for the first time to build a Methodist church in Tucson. And the project manager for that project was John Sant, who was one of M.M. Sant's 12 children. And he liked Tucson so much that he decided to stay. And in the 1930s, he bought out his father and moved the company to Tucson and renamed it M.M. Sant Construction Company. And that thus begins the Arizona part of our history. Since then, the company has prospered, and we've built many of the iconic projects, some of which include, for example, we built Los Alamos National Labs, where the atomic bomb was developed. We built the first Titan underground missile launch installation. We built the U.S. Embassy in Moscow. Some of you may recall the original contract was terminated because the concrete was riddled with listening devices that had been installed by the Russians, and so we were brought on as a follow-on contractor to complete that embassy. And not last nor least, we moved the London Bridge to Lake Havasu. So that just a few of the projects that we have been involved in. We're currently ranked number 45 in the Engineering News Record top 400 U.S. contractors list. So we've been around a while. We hope to be around a little longer. We are 100% employee-owned. And in fact, we're the largest employee-owned, completely employee-owned construction company in the country. And our largest shareholder, who's been there 45 years, has less than 2% of the stock. So it is spread around. But I wanted to, that's just by way of background. We were asked to present on ethics, business ethics, and that's a subject that's very much on our minds. One of our slogans is a registered service mark, building integrity since 1890. And our principles of honesty and integrity began with our founder, M.M. Sant, who is known for his fairness in dealing with customers, subcontractors, suppliers, and we've tried to carry on that legacy and be guided by that ever since. We try to live the ethical principles that he instilled in the company. We stress and encourage our employees to become actively involved in the communities and to perform community service. We have an employee and company code of conduct that we've had that for a number of years that memorializes the ethical principles we try to live by. We also have a code of ethical practices that is guided by the ethics check. And this comes from The Power of Ethical Management by Kenneth Blanchard. But we ask ourselves, if in doubt about whether an action is ethical or unethical, ask yourself, is it legal? In other words, does it violate any law or company policy? Is it balanced? Am I being fair to both sides? And finally, how will I feel about myself? Would it make me proud? Would I feel good if it were published in the paper? How would my family feel about it? And if the answer to any one of those questions is no, then it's probably unethical and the action shouldn't be taken. So we have, I'm happy to say, a well-earned, I hope, certainly an outstanding reputation for ethical business practices in the construction industry. And as an employee-owned company, we know that it takes years to build that reputation, but it can be lost with a single act. So we try to be guided by that principle. We consider good ethics to be good business, and we were talking earlier before the meeting began about the golden rule. We try to apply the golden rule in business. One of the unfortunate aspects of being a construction company is that we work in an industry that's not necessarily known for its ethics. Although I have to say that I've been in this business for more than 30 years, and some of the very finest people I've ever known have been in construction or in construction. But while we at Sant have an ethical culture and a culture of ethical behavior, and we stress integrity and personal responsibility, we're constantly struggling with that perception about the industry. We do a lot of work for the federal government, and some of you may be aware of the fact that the government is, particularly the federal government, but state governments as well, are targeting the construction industry for investigations and prosecutions, actually, fraud, waste, and abuse. And much the way that the government targeted the defense industry in the 80s and 90s. And sadly, there are a number of contractors out there who's taking advantage of the system has given the industry as a whole a black eye. So in an effort to establish a culture of ethical business practices and motivated partly by self-interest in trying to get out ahead of what we see as increasingly intrusive government regulation, we joined with 13 other prominent construction contractors in April 2008 to form the Construction Industry Ethics and Compliance Initiative, or CIECI. It's a mouthful, but now we're up to 42 companies, and that's not many in the context of all the construction companies in the country, but we are committed to ethical behavior, and we're going to get there. CIECI is a nonprofit association of U.S. construction industry companies whose sole purpose is the promotion and advancement of ethical business practices and compliance in the construction industry. Our goals are the advancement of organizational cultures that encourage and support ethical behavior and compliance with the law, and the identification and sharing of best ethical and compliance practices in the industry. In recognition that ethical practices for a company are best set by the example of management, the admission into the CIECI requires an application and personal commitment from the CEO of the company. Admission is not automatic. It's voted on by the members. And our CEO, Doug Pruitt, many of you may know, is on the steering committee for the organization, and I'm on the working group. We hold 2 meetings a year, one of which is a best practices forum, where we share ideas on what best practices are in ethics and compliance. And we're trying to make this organization the standard bearer for ethics and compliance in the construction industry, and to demonstrate that we are taking it seriously. So that concludes my opening remarks.
Thank you very much.
Questions at the end, I assume.
At the end, yes.
Thank you so much. We learned a lot.